Welcome to Philly Coco Presents Side Project Spotlight, Episode 8. This is a chronicle of a developer's journey into making cool stuff. We are your host. I'm Kotaro.
I'm Steve.
And I'm Aaron.
And we are part of a Philly-based Coco Heads community. Coco Heads is a loosely based global network of meetups focused on, primarily, the app development ecosystem. That usually means iOS, Mac, tvOS, and watchOS development. Philly Coco's primary objective is to always be a channel to help and encourage you to making cool stuff, whatever it may be. And that's the pitch.
Nailed it.
Good job. We're gonna get there.
Still got to fine tune that a little bit, maybe a little bit shorter.
This is our like ongoing meta joke for the podcast. We tune in every episode to find out how Kotaro does on his intro.
That's right. How less botchy it gets over time.
It's an iterative process, like software.
It is.
So this week, though, what are we talking about this week?
Well, first of all, Happy New Year's to you all.
All right, it is Happy New Year.
Right, we're in the year 2022.
Yeah, we're beyond the end game, and we're into what was the movie after Endgame? Was it Spider-Man?
We're in the multiverse now.
Oh yeah.
We're in the multiverse, baby. But to understand where we are, we have to understand where we were. And last we talked, we had just released the Watch app, Kanji Love, a little project that we have done since October, I think. Just sort of like a little side project that we decided collectively to build in SwiftUI for the Apple Watch. And I think we did reasonably pretty good for what we were trying to do. Again, Coco Love is a Kanji flashcard. It wasn't anything particularly special in terms of...
Kanji Love. You said Coco Love.
Yeah, Kanji Love. Jeez, I'm sorry. I'm botching all over the place.
We talked about Coco Love in the last episode. That's where we get the name.
Yeah. Kanji Love is the Watch app. So how did we do, guys?
How do we? So, Aaron, do you have the App Store Connect up?
Yeah. What do we got? 14 downloads.
Yeah, man. We're going to be rolling in those App Store riches with our 14 downloads of a free app.
And considering it's free, it's like, wow, we just...
We could have made $14. No, if we actually charged something, then it would have been like one download.
And you wonder why everybody runs the NFTs.
Yeah. I mean, this is understandable. We did zero marketing for this. If we're going to talk a little bit about retrospective about this thing, I mean, this was more of a portfolio app for us, yes, and especially for Aaron. And so in that case, I think it was very successful. But if we wanted to make this more of a commercially successful product, I think we would have to find our market and target it more and market to it. I mean, there's got to be Kanji learners out there that this might be valuable to, but we didn't even make an effort to contact them.
Well, the challenge is that it's already a pretty sizable. There's a pretty sizable sizable set of competitors out there that make a way better app. Have spent a lot more time and put a lot of more effort into building not only an iOS app, but that's extended out to that's iPhone, iPad, and watchOS. So you got sort of 3 pseudo Apple platforms that you have to deal with. On top of which, they've refined it to a point where it's not worth competing in that space unless you really have something compelling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if this is all just theoretical, if we were really trying to make this commercial and competitive. If there was an existing service or education service or something that we could partner with, and then this could be part of their, the tools that they offer you. So even if it was something local, like a college class or something, then you could do that. As for actually making money from it, without it being part of some kind of paid kind of curriculum plan or something, I mean, there's no obvious way to monetize this, right?
Well, the obvious way to monetize it is to probably sell it to some language learning service. I mean, for example, right? Like if if a company needed a watch extension for whatever reason, you could technically sell it for, I don't know, maybe a couple. It's being generous to say maybe 10,000 or whatever, but as a hypothetical. But you could save them the time, right? Because time is the real commodity here. So you could say, hey, I'll give, we'll sell it to you for this much and then call it a day. That's a possibility, assuming that that's what, if they needed that at that time. Now, again, like we went, when we did this watch app, it was really for learning how to build a watch app in SwiftUI. So we've already created, we were already building not only a niche in a niche in a niche, because not only was you were trying to target Japanese language learners, but you were also targeting like a specific set of people just trying to learn kanji on the watch app.
The lesson here is if you actually want to make money on your app, you got to think about that up front before you build it.
We had built this app for a party of one, which is basically me. In that sense, where it was like, well, I could use this, which is how I usually approach a lot of the personal apps that I build. It's usually just for me, because I know I would need it or I would want it. Doesn't mean that it's for everyone. And that's for a user or for somebody who's going to build something for the specific reason to make money or to make a business out of it. You really want to focus on what's out in the market and whether you can provide a compelling value for that product.
Yeah, we know some people in the community that are much better at looking at the market and or at least trying to build something for the market. Maybe we should try to have one of them on and talk to them.
Shout out to Charles Perry and Joe Japlinski.
I'm even thinking of Zorn a little bit too.
Zorn, yeah, Mike Zorn. Let me pour one out for release notes. R.I.P. We will miss you greatly, at least for now. We don't know for sure that's a definitive thing, but I mean that's a permanent thing. But I'm going to miss that podcast.
I think I've listened to every episode of Release Notes.
I've tried to listen to every episode of Release Notes.
I can't believe they did it every week.
Was it 5? Did they end at the 500th episode?
450, I think.
Okay,
something like that. But okay, that's nothing. It's like that's insane. But they did it consistently every week. I think they may have missed 1 or 2 weeks in the entire time, like timing wise. I think they did it. It was every Monday. It was so reliable. I could practically set my watch to it.
Yeah.
So amazing. Good job, guys.
So, Aaron, now that I've said, I guess, do you have any particular feelings about now that it's released in the wild as your first official app?
Not really, other than now it's been like 2 weeks or something since we actually released it, and actually that's like long enough that I've kind of forgotten that we even did it. Kind of. So it's like, where's the next project? I need. I'm in withdrawal. I need my fix of new projects.
Wow, look at this guy.
I did go and show my family the watch, and I was like, "Look, my name's in the credits." As expected from non-developers, they didn't really care. But they're like, "Is that an Apple Watch?" That was the main reaction I got. I was like, "Yes."
It's like, cool, that's cool. Let's go back playing our games. Yeah.
They're like, "What's a kanji?" Yeah, that was one question. What's a kanji?
I guess we're gonna have to make something a little more fun and mainstream next time or something.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Now that we know how. So what?
Maybe not a watch exclusive app.
No, not a watch exclusive.
Well, we're gonna move up. We're gonna move up. I think now in the hardware spec.
Are we? So that's the question, right? I mean, we have sort of talked about this idea of maybe doing some kind of AR project, augmented reality, as a way to sort of begin to kind of get ahead of the sort of the AR opportunity, right? That potentially could come up should Apple, whoever creates the next space for that. The Apple glasses as being the rumored next big product from Apple.
We're gonna Gonna enter the metaverse with our next project.
Of sorts, I guess, because like, is metaverse really? Because metaverse is really like, I think it's pitched more as a VR project, and that's not necessarily what I think we're targeting.
I think it depends on what the definition is. Where does it come from? It doesn't come from
the Neil Stephenson novel. I mean, that's where it's credited for, right?
Yes, I don't think I read the book though that it comes from.
The book is called Snow Crash.
Yeah, I never finished Snow Crash. I should finish it because I remember parts of it I read and it was really good. So don't like come after me with the pitchforks. I'll read it at some point.
The 9 people that's listening to this podcast is not going to come after you.
Yeah, they don't care. But no, I believe the metaverse does include AR. At least the current concept of it as being pushed by people using the term today is one that includes a virtual element, but is also an augmented reality element. It's kind of the idea that you're blending, I think, the worlds. Now, from my perspective, in Apple's kind of work they've been doing the last few years, it seems like they are, when I say simply, they're pushing AR specifically very hard. Like they don't have a VR system, at least not yet. And VR seems primarily games based, although there are some more useful things like for meetings and socializing and stuff that are existing. But they're more like, they seem like when I've seen some examples of it, they seem more like MMOs right now, like low quality MMOs
with no legs.
Yeah, with no legs. But I could see some utility maybe in the future. But the AR stuff I think has much more immediate utility, like in usefulness, like right now in the present, even without classes, because the amount of, if we're sticking to Apple platforms, the amount of support that they have added over the last like 4 years or whatever to augmented reality is just very impressive. It's amazing how much you can do now, and you don't have to like get third-party libraries or do a bunch of machine learning.
Well, Apple's usually pretty good about presenting the tea leaves of where they're going to developers. So sometimes there'd be, especially if they're really investing a lot in extending a particular API. So in the case of ARKit, which is their framework for augmented reality, they've done a lot in that space and giving you the ability to do face detection, object detection, occlusion mapping, depth. If you have a LiDAR scanner, that kind of depth support, being able to mask out 3D objects in the augmented space, so it looks, if it knows that it's supposed to be behind the person in the camera, it will sort of mask itself out appropriately. Also finger detection, so you can like rig a hand and get a sense of all the actual individual digits and know like which one's the index finger, the middle finger, etc. So you can actually be able to maybe even get a sense of the gestures of which the hand is being like utilized in. So there might be opportunities there. And there's other subtle stuff too. So like, let's just take widgets as an example of being a very useful case of saying, if I have, say, whatever this mythical Apple glasses, right, on, like, what is a cheap and dirty way to get app developers easily involved, right? Well, you just have them have widget support, and that widget support will be in the Apple glasses by default. So it's very similar to like Apple Watches. I think we have to almost think of it like another version of Apple Watches, right? To how that was introduced and then how that was ultimately expanded over time.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that. It does seem like that's where they're going, that whatever the next Apple glasses are, although the rumors now are that it looks more like Oculus thing than AR.
Yeah, I was not particularly impressed by that. Just feel
I hope that's not it. I mean, it's just rumors, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But I mean, all the technology they keep building is augmented reality, which means a camera is looking at the world, and then you're doing like overlays of things. As you said, you have technology to be able to distinguish the virtual elements from the real world elements and have occlusion and all that kind of stuff to make it feel like the virtual elements are in the real world, not like a completely virtual world that you're in with opaque goggles on. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that particular rumor that's what they're going to be.
Like if it was a dev kit, I would get it, but just seems like a big ask for somebody to be walking around in that thing. If that's the assumption.
Well, I don't think there's no way. There's no way you'd be walking around with something like strapped to your head like that. I mean, look, Google Glass, for all the glass hole jokes that were made in the day, that was at least a form factor that, made some sense. Like it was small enough and light enough and had some utility to it. It just, there's a lot of issues with it, but like that's the kind of, not that kind of specific design, but something that needs to be that lightweight and that like small. And you have to be able to, see the world around you. So I don't know what their hardware is going to be, but it's just so clear that they're pushing this AR angle much more than a full virtual world angle. Even the last presentation they did with the iPad Mini, then they have as a use case, some technician in the field could hold up the iPad Mini, and an augmented reality app could show him like an overlay of the circuits or something he was looking at, like the machine he was looking at.
Yeah. That's useful.
Yeah, see, that's like one of the app ideas that I think is pretty useful. That kind of thing.
A simple example is like you looking at a sign that's that's in French, and it'll auto translate to English if that's the configuration you need. That makes a lot of sense. They kind of do that right now in just the with machine learning part of the photos, right? So like you can actually, and then you can highlight those texts, right, and do something with it.
There's a bunch of APIs that kind of loosely fall under the same umbrella, I guess, of AR, Metaverse, whatever. Like there's the machine learning stuff, the ML stuff. There's the vision framework, which lets you do all that kind of recognition stuff. And I think that's where the text off of pictures is from. And then there's like specifically AR Kit, which is more about putting like virtual elements into a real world scene.
The subtle implication about Reality Kit, which is kind of like Apple's AR, whatever composer of the view, is actually it's very subtle. I didn't realize this. I forgot which podcast really talked about that. Was like, this is the next gen version of Scene Kit, which is Apple's 3D engine, sort of pseudo game engine, but under the hood, or under the implication is like they've stopped support for Scene Kit and they've put a lot of their resources in Reality Kit. Reality Kit doesn't do everything that Scene Kit does in this, but it's getting very close. If not, it does other things that are better than Scene Kit. And I think that's an interesting point.
Is Reality Kit like a fully virtual world, or is it?
It's virtual in this. It's virtual in the sense of how you compose everything, but its intention is to be able to overlay that onto a real world setting.
So the intention is not necessarily to have like a 3D world, like a game world, like virtual reality world. Can it work for that, or is it really designed for AR?
I think it was initially designed for AR, but I think it can be used for like VR or whatever, like games in general. But I think the intention was for AR.
Well, maybe they are going to make the goggles, and maybe they, if it can work. If they can use the same technologies, it just seems to me like they were pushing so hard on this idea of augmented reality. Maybe they've changed. Maybe they pivoted. I don't know.
I haven't got the sense that they pivoted, but I do think it's kind of interesting. Like I always keep saying, like, it's one thing to have overlays, right, of like bits of information of what you're seeing in the real world, right? It'd be another thing to sort of completely change the entire view of the camera to be either just a real simple example like night vision or heat vision or something like that, something more.
I want predator vision.
Yeah, predator vision, right? Like, how cool would that be, right? To create that overlay, and maybe even get it to a point where it becomes. That's where it kind of blends the sort of what they talk about mixed reality, sort of this like blend between the worlds of virtual and AR.
and that's to me what comes to mind when people are talking about the metaverse. I know it seems we're kind of going back to that again, but I don't think of it as the virtual reality thing. Maybe it's because I've never had an Oculus Rift or something, one of the cool headset things. But I always thought of metaverse as that blending. And when I think about AR app ideas, I'm thinking about how can I use my device in the real world with this AR functionality to in some kind of valuable way. I'm not thinking in terms of like wearing some opaque goggles.
Well, the thing that I really hate about the opaque goggle idea,
I don't know what the proper word is. That's what I just keep thinking of it as, like opaque,
or the big funky goggles in your face, is how stupid you look to other people. Like, there's nothing about it that's communal, right? It's just once you're in that world, you like, it doesn't matter. Like watching friends and family play the Oculus Rift at a party, everybody's going to take out their phone and start taking videos of you doing your stupid little hand wavy thing with these funky looking joysticks or controllers. And you don't even know. That's the thing. Like, you don't know that they're laughing at you. or the other thing is you don't know your surroundings too. So half the time somebody's like waving these things and they're heading, like inadvertently, they're heading towards the television set about to smash the thing by accident. And you know, there's nothing to tell them that. There's no, like, even the Oculus doesn't tell you. I think it does have a camera that points outside, but it doesn't tell you like, hey, you know, impending object in front of you in real world. You know?
What you need to do is just run on a treadmill.
It does feel like a weird mental workout. Now that I think about it.
I wish I could. I'm not dinging them. I mean, I want to try an Oculus Rift. I've never had an opportunity.
You should just to get the context of like, just to get the context of like, because what happens is like you put the goggles on, it's like very immersive almost immediately. It's almost like you go in, it's like, and then like the whole world is covered, and like you see all, if you you know, this new virtual world, and you're looking around and you're saying, oh, this is really cool, and you're kind of doing whatever, Beat Sabers or some game or horror game. But then when you come out, it's almost like you're taking like this really weird deep breath of like, oh man, I'm like, and then like the real world, like all the real world light comes into your eyes, and you're just like, whoa, it's super disorienting.
I think I never tried it because I never had a computer that would work with it, and I don't want to spend all the money on it anyway. But it doesn't really work with Macs. But they have a version that's more self-contained, that's lower power, like processing power, right? What's that one? Is that the Oculus Rift 2 or something? Or
I think it's the Quest. The Quest is the
Quest. Yeah. And it's $300. Like, it's actually quite.
That's not bad.
You know, it's quite within reason.
I want to play that game. What's that game where they're like slashing at the musical things?
Oh, that's Beat Saber.
That's the one I just want to play. That one looks really fun.
Yeah.
That's games. Totally, I'm totally on board with the idea that VR games can be a lot of fun. I'm not as much on board that VR is super useful for other types of tasks necessarily, but gaming totally makes sense to me.
I mean, gaming. The great thing about gaming in general, like, is this sense of there's a higher level of empathy because you're the character. So that in general, just in general, right? Like, you relate to the character, you're on the same journey with the character, you're playing the character, so there's some ownership there. In VR, that just gets ramped up in such a weird way because almost everything is first person.
Storytelling opportunities abound, I think, in VR specifically.
Yeah, it's really good for that. So, like, I think the one of the early examples I remember experiencing and then realizing, like, oh, I get it, is when somebody had me like put my head. It's so weird. I had one of the early, like, I forgot what they call it, the early Oculus or HTC Vive prototypes, and they had me put on the goggles. This was at the Philly Game Mechanics. It's like a local indie game meetup, and
you run partially, right? Aren't you? Yeah.
I partially helped run that, but and then I had my head down on this chair, and then they turned on the game, quote unquote, and then I'm hearing all these like crazy angry people, and I would look up, right, and then I see like this crowd of like they were just like like paper, like cardboard looking people of like people from like the French Revolution getting angry at me. I'm like, whoa, what's up with this, right? And I look around, and they're all yelling. It's really really immersive in that sense. And then I look up, like further up, like it's like why am I? And then like the guillotine comes right down on my head. And that's the end of the game.
Wow, that's amazing.
And just the shock of it was just like, whoa, like, oh, this is what it's like to get your head chopped off. It's just like,
yeah. For me, virtual reality, I'm really excited about the narrative possibilities for it. But do I want to go and do a bunch of meetings in VR? I mean, I could see sometimes wanting to do that. But remember, what was that 24 hours in the Metaverse video?
oh, it's a Wall Street.
Wall Street Journal. I can't remember who does that.
Yeah, she's really good.
But that was like, yes, that's basically what I thought it would be like. It would like give you a headache, and it would be uncomfortable to do that.
The gear is still uncomfortable because all that weight's in front. It's like front loaded, and then the straps themselves aren't very comfortable at all. Even with the new one, the Quest, it just felt like it was either too loose or too tight. So you're always going to get some sort of like, it's going to feel really uncomfortable.
Some of that is just there's a necessary amount of glass, right, and equipment you need for the vision system. How small can these things and how lightweight can they be shrunk down is one of my questions, because isn't there like a hard limit, like because you to some degree, because you need to project this stuff into your eyes, which means there's certain physical reality you have to deal with here about how to do that, and I don't know how small these things could get.
All right, so if we're talking strictly AR glasses, right?
Not AR, I'm talking about VR, but yeah.
I've already thrown VR out the window. I don't care about VR.
We just talked about it for like 5 minutes.
I mean, I get it, but I think it's like a niche thing in my mind.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's good for narrative storytelling, for games, for maybe occasional virtual type of meeting deals. It's that to me, but yeah, I do think AR, for lack of a better term, AR is where it's at for me. So yeah, okay, you say AR vision goggles, whatever we're calling them, glasses.
So I think from that standpoint, if we're talking strictly technology, right? Let's say we had the watch. The watch technically can do a low res screen, all day screen, right? Now, right? Like we can turn that on. The size of a watch, dimension wise, the battery size is like maybe pretty small, right? Like you can pretty much fit this in some kind of form of the glasses, right? So then the chip would be some version of what was it, I forgot the name of the chips for the Apple Watches, but like some variation of that, right? So the only real battery sucking thing, I mean, the main battery sucking thing is the screen, right? So the idea is like it's probably going to be one of those this is a really good use case for those flexible screens, like you see from like Samsung and I think recently from Sony. So that's a really good use case for just having like one long strip of glasses. Like I know like they've had demos of like.
But can you see through those screens?
Yes. Oh, you can. That's actually kind of one of the novelties about it, is that you can see through them, and also one of the things people make fun about, because it's like, why would I watch something through this screen when I'm just going to put it up against a white wall anyway? Seems kind of silly, but in this case, it's actually kind of compelling, because you can hopefully you can also manipulate the opacity of how much of that you can see through. I don't know that particular spec, but I do feel like that's possible, right?
It seems like a very advanced version 1. I don't expect it to be that good, but that would be great.
Right. So then you're like, okay, well, I would have overlays here, but and then I don't think version 1 would have like a full like opacity of 1, like basically like something that completely takes over your vision, because that's that to me is like a what is it? Just a potential for like accidents to happen, right?
Yeah. See, I mean, if we go by just what the APIs and all do on Apple's stuff and how they use it now with an iPad or an iPhone, yeah, it would seem to me like they need to have some kind of transparent glasses that just do these overlays, but just like the through a camera, just like the iPhones do. But that's I mean, it's kind of a tall order. Like, how do you? I don't know enough about how the hardware might work, but I mean, you can get it washed out. Like, you have all this light around you, right? So how do you project that onto an overlay so you can see it without like disorienting you or something? Like Google Glass did it right by having this little screen kind of like right in front of one eye, right? So it kind of looked like it was a floating thing in your vision.
I don't know how you can't come out of that without getting all crazy eyed. Because yeah, like one eye is just focused on this, and the other eye like saying, "What the hell's going on?"
But that's not really what we're thinking of. We're thinking of an augmented reality glass. We're thinking of, in my actual field of view, like the building in front of me or something that would have an overlay on it, or something. So it wouldn't just be this little physical location. I don't know if they're gonna be able to do that with version 1.
It would. Do you know those old lab glasses in science class you had to get?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm thinking in that kind of context of like, okay, it would be in that sort of construct. It has to be that size, right? Especially if the glass is also if there's going to be an inside camera that's going to track your eyes and what they're doing. Because I feel like that would be part of the requirement for this AR glasses to work well, because it needs to get a sense of what you focus on. It'll also need, so like maybe it can, like, if you're looking at a stop sign that's in French, right? It's going to say, "Oh, I'm assuming you're trying to figure out what that says," right? Even though, whatever, right? So it'll give you some like indicator of like, hey, maybe you want to, or if you're focused on your hands, right? And somehow it knows that these are your hands, right? Based on the proximity of it, then it can actually start reacting to the gestures of your hands.
Now, I guess the other way this can work is you can have the big opaque goggles, and then the whole world just gets projected in front of you from the cameras. Do the Oculus ones have a camera to see the world around them?
No, I feel like these people who make this stuff have this weird, for that kind of scenario, have this weird sort of Ghost in the Shell fantasy where they like this idea of wearing this big clunky thing in front of your face, running around trying to chase criminals or whatever. They just,
but yeah, there's definitely people that like that idea. I don't think that's mainstream. I think if Apple's releasing something this year, as is rumored, it has to be like somewhat broadly applicable to people. It can't be too niche, right?
Aaron, you got an opinion?
I feel like actually V1 would have to be more of a, even whether it's AR or VR, would have to be just like a pure display with like no processing, like tied to your phone, just for battery life and display quality, to like process, like something that looks good but can also do processing. I think it's going to be too bulky and heavy, so it would have to be offloading the processing power onto another device, and then it would have to, if it was like glasses, it'd have to be like a good pair of glasses, and the tech be invisible. Like it has to be completely invisible for it to be like Apple. Like I feel like it was like a good pair of glasses that you would want to wear, and it's like, oh, when would you want your glasses to have some stuff that whatever you happen to be looking at when you're wearing your glasses? Then
you can do, I mean, you could do like heads up displays now. I mean, they're not super high res. You're not going to do really, but maybe that's the approach.
But you don't want like yeah, notifications like popping up in your eye everywhere, especially if you're driving.
Yeah, I just don't know what, I mean, if we're going to build something, right? I just don't know what they're
we'd have to build something that works fine on the phone for AR right now, just like based on the APIs that are available, what's actually useful. And it might run, if you just imagine that you're running it on some glasses also, but it has to still work well as an AR phone experience.
Do they have something where you can like take a human, like not video cam, like live, like have a camera point at somebody full screen, and then have it auto rig to like figure out the person's basic bone 3D bone.
Yeah, they do. They have body pose estimation So yeah, they'll pick out the key points of the joints. That's an API that you can use that they have now.
And then you can map it to a 3D character.
I don't know. I think that would be up to you to map it to a 3D thing. I don't think they have any support for actually like taking that rig and sticking it on. But I'm sure somebody has some piece of that tech you could plug in. But I'm sure it's not just like a API that you can call.
They do a demo where I think they have a little rigged up 3D thing doing movements based upon a person doing movements, right? It's like they have some, I think, an example app of mapping it, the things, but I mean, you have to provide the assets and stuff, I guess.
Right. So like, say for example, there's a service called Mixamo, which assigns animations to a character rig, but they also provide the characters themselves, like just some templated characters that we can utilize to just export with a preset rig, if you will, so that you can assign an animation to that character, the 3D character. So you can borrow one of those to test, because it's a very generic, like humanoid character rig. You can assign it to this particular. You can use that to test this idea of saying, okay, let's take, Chrissy dancing, for example, doing a dance move, and then saying, okay, now assign this dance move animation to this 3D character, and then see how this works in 3D space or AR space.
Yeah. So if we're talking about like apps to build for this, Aaron, are you thinking of something along the lines of using that human, what do we call this thing, the skeleton the skeleton guy?
I think they call it body pose estimation.
Do you have an idea for like a body pose? I think I think whatever we're going to work on needs to be really scoped down, just like before, but anything's open.
So it would be something like, for example, you just take a generic, like really like generic human body, right? And let's say you have Chrissy do her dance, and the rig will copy her dance movements, and then you would then record. So you would record the dance movements, the animation basically, and then save it to this whatever file, and then she can share that with her students, and they would put it in AR. You could share it as a USDZ, which is basically a 3D object that saves all the sort of scene related data, and then they can open it up in their camera view, and then they can post it on to whatever table or the floor, and then they can see it, like you can go around with their camera to like see how the dance works in 3D space. Like maybe they don't know where a certain joint was supposed to go, right? Or I'm sorry, like where the hand gestures were supposed to go, and here we have this character like demonstrating that for her. I mean, fundamentally, I feel like everybody downloads, buys, uses software because they're trying to, ultimately, as corny as it sounds, like you're trying to get more superpowers, right? You're trying to like make something easier for you that wasn't before or convenient. But in this case, like the way I think about developing apps, I'm trying to gain a superpower. I'm trying to like build something that is useful to me.
Yeah, didn't Jobs say it was like the bicycle of the mind is what a computer was? Like I've always thought that, and I thought with iPhones, especially, that we have such a powerful computer just with us, with all these sensors and stuff on it, that you should be able to do really amazing things with them. And Aaron has provided us the API documentation for detecting human body poses in images. That's in an image, but with the vision framework. But I think you can do it with a live video feed too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this is already out there, to be quite frank. Or I would be very surprised if it's not. Let's put it that way.
There was a kanji app,
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, the hard part is refining into a thing that's scoped down enough that we can make it in one of these side projects.
Yes.
And if it would be something that would be usable in like Chrissy's class or dance class, that's mostly kids, so it doesn't have to be super sophisticated. I mean, and it could just be a fun little thing. So that's actually not a bad idea. Trying to use the body pose stuff to record someone's movements and then reproduce them in a model and then see how well that works. That'd be pretty cool. Because if it already has it built in, if it doesn't require a lot of machine learning to recognize stuff, that's another benefit. Because one of the other ideas I thought about before, and they also did a demo of this, was the exercise tutoring type of app, where it can recognize the type of exercises you're doing. This is another vision framework thing, but you have to do machine learning of like a whole bunch of video of the different techniques you're doing in order for it to understand that. But if what we're just doing is recording movements of a human body and then playing it back, that sounds like something that might be within the scope of what we could accomplish as a side project.
Yeah, I think so. And we'll just put it under your account, Steve.
Oh yeah, why not? I need to put something on there. What else we got?
I think the other one that I thought about that's a little more complicated in some sense is, and the pieces are out there. It's just I don't know if it's been comprehensively put together, which is basically being able to take pictures, like maybe a 360 picture of, let's say, this Dunkin' Donuts thing, right? And generating a 3D object out of it. This is actually quite useful in product spaces, right? So like if you wanted to demonstrate like if IKEA wanted to demonstrate a product, like they have their own production team and all that, but would imagine if all you did was take the 3D picture of this, right? Like 360, like top, bottom, and maybe a few other things. And then it will use I forgot the framework, but it will use it's CoreML or CreateML to generate. You'd still need to use a Mac really to generate the actual 3D object. So you would need a Mac app for that. But the idea is like you would start an iOS app, right? You would create this thing. You would take all the pictures that you needed. You'll fill out all the like maybe you should add more here or there, and then send it through CloudKit, for which then we can get that. We can get all that metadata. I'm sorry, not metadata. All the pictures into a Mac app, for which then we'll say, okay, I'm going to generate this 3D object for you. Are you ready? You do it. Boom, you got the 3D object. You can put it on your, and it'll export out either an FBX, an OBJ, or a USDZ file. One USDZ file if you want to like demonstrate it in AR, OBX if you're just trying to make it a 3D asset, a static 3D asset.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. So there's a texture on the outside of it just going to be the photos. Is that what the texture map is going to be?
Yeah, that's part of the like Mac API that does the like 3D conversion. But you need a lot of photos. You need like hundreds. So the designing the app that makes it really easy and seamless to take all those pictures. I think there are apps that do this now, but not that like. Then they probably send it to some like cloud-based thing that does the conversion for you. It takes a while.
Yeah, I know that. I thought Apple had some kind of demo doing this kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they have like an API for the conversion framework, but you still need to like supply the hundreds of images, and then it spits out the
right. But didn't their demo app include a really, really, really simple app for taking those pictures for something in one of the demos? I remember something where you had to like it was like an app. You had to like walk around the thing and take all the pictures of it.
That wasn't there. That was somebody else's app. I'm pretty sure they were demoing with.
Oh, it was? Okay. Well, it definitely exists though. Somebody made an implementation of that recording app, so maybe there's an example out there.
Right. So here's the way I'm looking at it. Right. Let's just say you have a toy and you want to sell it on eBay or Etsy or whatever, right? So you want to take a couple pictures, but then you want to create like a 3D object to allow people not only to get the so you would save it in HEIC, which actually saves more metadata related to the size and scale of the product. So you could, when you generate the 3D object, it will be at a proper scale and size, I believe.
Yeah, and you can put these files on your website, so someone on an iPhone or something can go to your website and hit a button and see the AR.
Even as something as silly as pizza or food. I think the pizza was an example of like this really well done. Like it looked like it was the actual pizza in the thing, and then if you want to add some kind of effects, you can add like a smoke effect if you wanted to.
Yeah, make it. I mean, I was thinking more of what's the most utility for that kind of thing, and I was thinking of why would I want to look at an AR version of a pizza, but I would definitely want to look at like an AR version of furniture or a lamp or things I'm going to put into my living space. That makes sense. So there's a lot of people who sell stuff in my area on like Facebook Marketplace, or they give it away. Things that they're trying to get rid of. A lot of that stuff is like old furniture or it's like tools and things. And sometimes it might be a good idea to have a better idea of what the scale is. So like how big is that TV, for instance? Like would it actually fit? Or what about this? I have a bed I'm getting rid of, or some weird things like that. But you never know. Sometimes the scale is important. So I really like that idea too. That's cool. But that one definitely would be, I think, a longer term project, unless we could really scope it down really, really narrow. I was thinking there was this long term thing we did. We talked about Side Project Saturday a long time ago, which was like, and this is probably a bad idea for many, many reasons because it'd be abused. But like, remember the Graffiti app idea? I remember we talked about this before Apple, I think, had the APIs to let you to pin things geographically and like onto a wall or something. But the idea is you could leave secret messages or graffiti or whatever on real life objects you can only see in AR.
Oh, jeez. You know there'd be dick pics everywhere.
Yes, that's why I'm saying we probably can't do it. But the AR graffiti, for lack of a better word, was what I thought about for a long time, because I thought that would be cool for especially for collaborative like art in a real world space. So you could say a big wall that you can't actually get permission to paint, for instance, but you could have this wall, and if obviously if it's like accessible from like a sidewalk or something, it should not go on private property. But say you can look at it from legally, from a public place, then you could theoretically make these augmented reality things happen there, and also useful for a scavenger hunt mechanism too. But you could create some kind of artwork there, or some kind of 3D animation or something that you can only see when you open the app there. The only problem we had with it, or one of the many problems with it, is obviously it would just be dick pics everywhere,
among other things.
Yeah, it's among other things. That's kind of the problem with it. However, if you kept it as maybe, and I was thinking about this the other day, if you did something like this and maybe it was just a private sharing mechanism. So I think one of the issues is like if people make these inappropriate images, does it matter too much if they're only sharing it amongst themselves? I mean, like I don't care what people draw in Photoshop or something, right? But you don't necessarily want an app that's like publishing the stuff automatically publicly or something. That's kind of the downside. What if you made a private showing, so you had to like opt in to see the thing, so you had to like join the group, or you had to put in the code or whatever, so you couldn't access it unless there was an explicit opt in for, and you understood what could happen.
So the challenge there is forget the whole private part. It's like saving the data. Because I think you could probably use CloudKit to do a sharing, like private sharing session between iOS users. Of course, this is all stuck in the Apple ecosystem, which makes that's already problematic in that sense. But forgetting all that, if we're just saying like, oh, I just want to share with my iPhone user friends to come on into my house and see my virtual world of my house, right? Like, so they put on their AR glasses, or they take their phone and they like wave it around your house, and you have all these, let's say NFTs as an example of like, okay, I have my NFT gallery and I want to show it off. I stick my my picture here, my monkey picture there, my banana picture there, or whatever. right? My animated, abstract art there, and then say, okay, set, right? Okay. First, I'd have to figure out where the data is going to be stored. Do we have like ways to save session data, positions of your house, by the way, right? So you have to have your permissions set, your privacy, your location set to like a very precise level, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even thinking that complicated for this kind of thing. I'm thinking you can draw something and pin it to a wall, and then your friend could come and look at it with the app, and they could see it if they're physically present. Looking at the same place. Like I this idea I've had since the AR was new, and I know someone's had to have done this because it's such an obvious thing to do. And same thing with scavenger hunts for this. And the other thing you do, not just drawing it, but I mean, you could do more elaborate animation stuff. I know people have done that, but
I mean, what it would be hilarious is that it's basically like a great way for drug dealers.
Oh God, now you're ruining the idea completely.
Right? It's like, all right, use this app, right? Okay, go to location, take your phone, open the app, start scanning the space, and like there'd be like this little secret graffiti marker says over here.
Okay, you know what? Drug dealers can use any technology for their own ends, apparently.
I mean, if it was me, like that's how I would think. It's like, okay, well,
your mind just immediately goes to like, how can I abuse this?
Dark places. It's. I think Mystic Quest had a
Mystic
about
with the shovel.
Yeah. They use like some.
Time to TTP.
Time to penis.
In that show, in Mythic Quest, they made the shovel. This is season 1, and they and the first thing that people try to do with it is to make a dick pic, and then and then when they try to prevent that from happening, they don't want to use it. Right? That was a weird one. That show's great.
Yeah, I'm always thinking on that level.
I thought the idea would be somewhat could be scoped down because you could use what the heck is that drawing thing that you use for your app? Why I can't remember API names today? Because it's
Pencil Kit.
Yeah, couldn't you use Pencil Kit to draw with your fingers, just a simple drawing? Could we use that to draw something in an AR view? And I don't know. And then, or maybe we don't even need to go that. We could just do gesture recognizer too.
You technically could,
because I'm just saying really, really simple. I just want to draw a picture with some colors with my finger to start with, and then post it somewhere. Like a little drawing app, and then the only thing it does, as a first side, make it an interesting side project, is that you can pin these things and make an AR kind of thing for that.
I think that the challenge with trying to pin it is that you're assuming that that's going to be a flat space versus like places that they might want to have where it has like all sorts of like a rock formation, right? Like if you try to pin it on that, like it's not going to look right unless you can figure out how to map on that 3D space, right?
Yeah, it's that's true, and it's probably easier to pin something in the sense of like in this general location than it is to map it onto the surface. So then it's like a floating thing, but I don't know. AR graffiti, I think it's a viable thing, right? We could theoretically do it, right? You could draw stuff and then you could save it. You could share it with someone else, and they could see the same thing. I mean, like Aaron again, the MVP Aaron, giving us the sample code for saving and loading world data. Yeah, this is probably where I got this idea from. iOS 12. When I was reading this, I remember looking at this. You can save the AR world data. So that's pretty cool. Also, I'm telling you, the idea of scavenger hunts, I think, really lend themselves well to this too, because then you could use 3D. I mean, you can use the geolocation stuff as well as the AR thing. So you can, or you could even use QR codes, because that's a thing now. You can scan, right, and you can do all kinds of. You can use a vision framework in different ways, but you could build a really cool, I think, AR scavenger hunt app. Where when you get to the location, you have like a little actual treasure box. It opens up like Zelda and like has stuff streaming from. You can do all kinds of stuff because you build all the animations elsewhere, like on your own, and all you're really doing is pinning them to a specific location and, whatever other logic you have to determine whether someone can look at it. And then you look at it through your phone or your iPad, and you get to see all the stuff and interact with it. And I think that's pretty cool for Scavenger.
Just need a crate smasher simulation.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the best part of any game, just smashing crates. So that's what we need.
All right. Well, we're getting close to time. I want to figure out potential next steps on what we would want to consider.
We didn't really get very far in narrowing it down to a specific. We have some vague ideas, but not one really refined idea.
I wonder if it makes a lot of sense for us to kind of come back and with our own sets of prototypes. I mean, nothing major, something just experimentations of like, okay, I looked around, here's an idea that I see. Maybe look for prototypes, look for something that's already existing and saying, okay, this kind of idea works, or or maybe even looking for app examples. So app examples, prototypes, GitHub source code, whatever, just to see like what ideas, how you can like take some of these sort of like broken, these sort of separate half-baked ideas and sort of merge them into a compelling one, right? That's still within the scope of like a side project. I think that's something that should be our next step in terms of like, okay, and then sort of like, saying, okay, here are some samples. This is what I'm thinking about this vision from these projects, these sort of combined projects. So we have to, I don't think any of us really deep dive too much into AR in general. So
No. Last time I looked at it was probably a couple versions back of ARKit, and so no. I think that's a good idea. We can look for or play around maybe with a prototype. I think looking for existing prototypes might be the fastest way to make progress, because one of the things I about this stuff is it's like a lot of concepts, a lot of APIs, and to get behind. I think it'd be nice to find something to build with. As again though, Apple actually provides a lot of interesting prototypes around prototype sample code. So maybe we can find something to mess with and explore some of these ideas. Like I like the dance tutoring app idea, and if I like that one to me feels like, without actually going into details about how looking at the APIs, as maybe the most possible of the ones we've seen, like in terms of we can keep it scoped down. The 3D asset builder as well.
Yeah, it's definitely the most complete. It's definitely the most complete idea. In terms of feasibility, I don't know, but as far as fleshed out idea, I think it's closest to done.
So I would like to look at that one. So if we're going to go and explore ideas, I will try to find do some exploration of that one before next time.
You just need to go to the website, the Kotaro thing, Mixamo, and download a model.
Yeah, Mixamo, by the way, is free. So so you just need an Adobe account, which I know you have. So
I do have an Adobe account, unfortunately. Okay, so if I'm going to look at that one, what do Kotaro and Aaron want to explore? Maybe we should all just explore something different, unless you all want to try whatever.
I'm kind of curious about the session data one, and I actually am interested in the body pose one, just so I can get get some context. But then I'm also going to look at the 3D. I know my mind's all over the place, but I think primary focus is probably doing that 3D object generation, because I already have that project downloaded and I've looked at it a few times, where you're generating a 3D object from a series of images. So I might explore that a little bit. Just because like that's useful to me more so than any of the other projects.
This stuff is there for that. It's just getting it to be seamless is like, it's a hard problem. Like even with all the APIs, it's like hard to capture the right photos and get it to be seamless and not just get a janky, weird looking thing. So yeah,
lighting and everything, right? So.
And if we do that, though, we could really focus it down and be like, just get it to work for coffee cups or something. Like you can pick one category of simplified object, maybe.
Like I assume like there's some potential issues with like, because it's like like trying to like identify an object that is concave versus convex.
Right. There's also lighting considerations too.
No, it's like a photography problem. It's not really like the reconstructing the thing is like easy, assuming you put all the right images. So it's like having all the things that are perfectly overlapping and covering every square inch of the thing in every direction.
And you probably want them all lit consistently with like a softbox light. So.
Yeah. So basically, you need a photography studio, and like they recommended like how to capture these things. Put it on this like automated turntable that automatically turns the thing. And
now we could do that ourselves. Like you could make your own kind of DIY setup to make it work. I think we can make it work.
You could, but it would.
But it definitely requires some crafting, I think, on our end.
if you don't want to sit there and like take a bunch of photos, load it up, look at it, oh, it looks terrible, I got to get more photos, try it again. If you want it to just be like this thing, you do it one time and you know it's going to work. That's hard.
Yes, and that's why you'd hopefully have an app that could help. You know, I don't know if you could. You could have an app to help you do those photos so that it could tell you that you've got them. You know,
I don't know if it would really know. I mean, it can give you some guidance. I mean, yeah, you use some like AR tracking thing of, yes, you've covered this many square inches of your object volume, but
yeah, there are apps that do a fine job already, like a reasonable job. It's just a question of like, can we do something that doesn't require you to use a cloud-based service? Going decentralized here.
You're going to look into that, but what do you want to look into, Aaron, before next time?
I don't know. Maybe I'll just kind of bounce between those two things, see what you guys are working on. I don't know.
I think it's just more of a question of like, just trying to play around with some of the prototypes, get a better sense of the space as it is now of ARKit, and then we can kind of go from there.
Just doing AR something as far as we've gotten.
Right. Also, like we have to consider like whether or not we can do this well in like SwiftUI.
Yeah, because we don't want to go back to UIKit. Is that what you're
saying? Yes, not because it's any better per se. It's just one of those things where I get the sense like, well, not to get the sense. I'm trying to build up my UI skill sets in that sense. So the less UI kit that I'm working in this project, I feel like then I'm sort of setting myself up for the future in that regard.
Okay, yeah. So it should use SwiftUI
as much as you can. I get the feeling like that's not going to be the case.
We do this every other week, so the next time would be when we'd have to really decide on a project, because that'll be almost the end of January, and then we can move forward. Our last one it was almost 3 months.
So in this case, if we're actually good about it, this will take us like right before WWDC.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If we do the same timeline, then we could build something right before WWDC, and then find out that all of our efforts were for naught because they upgraded the APIs, and we could have just done it, without all the effort. That's what happens with ARKit every other year. They would update the ARKit. I remember specifically looking at actually, and this was Vision Kit stuff. I remember specifically finding a third-party library to do hand gesture recognition, and then like the next year or a few months later, Apple just released that, right? Don't they can do that now? Can't you just do hand gesture recognition now?
You can, but you still need to. It's much more like you can identify which fingers.
You can identify the points. It won't tell you what the hand is doing. It just can tell you where they are. Yeah.
Well, the other opportunity, which already exists in some form or fashion, is like recognizing hand sign language. Like, to me, I feel like if they didn't have that in the AR glasses built in somehow by default,
they should. Oh my god, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Now, right? It doesn't help you to communicate back to somebody.
No. Well, the thing is that if the Apple glasses can pick up the mic or the audio and then display that in your language, so maybe I'm speaking Japanese and you're saying, oh, okay, like I can't hear this person, or maybe the person speaking in a different language, but because I have auto translate set on, I'm seeing like a subtitle version of that.
No, you're right. The application possibilities for AR, for like a real AR glasses you wear around out in the world, are pretty amazing when you think about it. Like all the things that you could theoretically do if you could get enough processing power, sensors, and like battery life into a package.
Could you imagine if your entire life was closed captioned?
Go crazy.
That's a little wild, but
But yeah, that technology exists. So like instant captioning.
It does, but the putting it right in front of your face, so it's just there. I mean, that would be amazing, and especially if it does the translation. I mean, even just print, even before you got to that level, just print translation transparently, like you can do with the whatever the app is, the translation apps now.
you do a little gesture of like select, copy and paste. So you just like your finger gesture to like highlight it, and then you grab it, and then you toss it into a mailbox icon.
Actually, that would be a lot of fun, like messing around with like gesture-based UI stuff, but that would be kind of experimental stuff.
Actually, that would be extremely useful, to be honest.
But it would be extremely difficult if you have to hold up a phone in front of your hand or behind your hand, like doing this. It would be really awkward because that would be designed for the hopefully getting the glasses soon.
Yeah, if you can explore that, that would actually be useful.
Yeah, you could have the device on like a tripod or something, and so you have to think about what the application is in that case for that you're doing gesture. But one obvious one that I've seen that's existed for a long time was just changing pages on something. I know that was a thing with the cookbook apps or something back in the day on earlier on iPads.
Oh! I just came up with a clip dish idea because I was thinking, oh, that's kind of like if I had Clip Dish, the Clip Dish app made by what's the company? Matt's company. Anyway, Clip Dish is this cool recipe app that actually not sponsored, by the way. It's a non-sponsored ad that takes a recipe from a website and basically screen scrapes all the metadata so that all you get, all you have to deal with, all you get is the actual steps to actually do the recipe. I was thinking, it'd be great if I can get that list in some kind of transparent view in AR and just like see that as I'm making my pizza or whatever. And then I was like, well, you could probably pull that off in a widget, right? Or not really, but like maybe if the steps are small enough, right? You can at least see your ingredients list on a widget.
Yeah, it's by AppJohn LLC.
By AppJohn, of course.
The greatest name for a company.
Shout out to you, Matt.
I'll put that in as not a sponsor. Clip Dish.
Not a sponsor.
Yeah. We're just have that regular as a regular feature, the not a sponsor feature.
Yeah. What's the website name of it? Clip Dish or Get Clip Dish?
GetClipDish.com.
All right, yes. GetClipDish.com.
So I think we got some good ideas. We're going to meet up next time, and we're going to see where we got on our prototype research.
Yep. Sounds good. Well, it was great seeing you. Again, Happy New Year's. We'll talk soon.
Obviously, it would just be dick pics everywhere.